Hey, my name is Fred the Finch. You might know me as Ronald. I'm one of the best Yamato players in the game right now. And today, on November 7th, Yamato got one of the biggest changes we've ever seen for her. Yamato used to be completely unkillable during her ult, but now, instead of preventing death, it gives a straight up 60% bullet and spear resist. It heals you for 30% when you cast it, and it gives you 2 seconds of extra duration for each kill you get it. The overall duration was also increased by 2 seconds, and the grapple time speed is now affected by ult as well, which are two pretty big changes as well, but obviously a little bit overshadowed by the biggest change. Now, this change completely changes how Yamato is played, and especially how she's going to be built. Most builds for Yamato in the past were centered on Reverb or Boundless Spirit with Refresher to double ult, get a ton of invincibility during fights and reset your cooldowns a ton, but I don't think that's how she's going to be played anymore. Instead, I think she's going to fill this super disruptor role where she becomes super tanky and unkillable still, even though she can technically die in ult, while doing a ton of damage and life stealing back a ton. So she still becomes this super unkillable force, but not literally. And she does this in very different ways. So this is my newest version of the build, and I think this is going to be one of the strongest ways to play Yamato and the most consistent way to get value out of her. With how drastically Yamato and the Yamato build has changed, I'm just going to go through each item, talk about why I still think it's good, why I might have changed it out, and what role it fills. The tier 1s fill essentially the same role as they did before, just keeping you more survivable and doing a little bit more damage in lane. You don't need a ton of help doing the damage in lane, so they're mostly just to survive for longer. And then Cold Front is there where you'll hit your Cold Front at about the 5-minute mark when you can go to farm those tier 2 camps. So Cold Front early is really helpful just to get that farm up, and the rest of the tier is pretty basic. Going on the tier 2 upgrades, starting out is pretty much the same as before. We get a little bit of gun damage and we get some gun items that scale with our spirit. We don't have any lifesteal or any healing, you might notice, but after Soul Shredder bullets, you immediately jump to Diviner's Kevlar, and this is a big waiting period, but I think it's worth it. Diviner's Kevlar on its own almost gives as much Spirit Lifesteal as Spirit Lifesteal, and it gives cooldown reduction and obviously a lot of Spirit Power, as well as giving you a giant boost in Spirit Power when you use your ult, which is when you're going to be your strongest. Also, because we're rushing Diviner's Kevlar so early, these 700 shields that it's giving you when you use ult are going to be even more effective than if you got it later, because people are just simply dealing less damage. The one downside you might be thinking about Kevlar is that resistances don't get applied to shields, so you don't benefit from the dual 60% resist you get from ult, and while this is true, I don't think it's as big of an issue as it seems. Basically, when you ult on Yamato, with this build you can either be 1 HP or very low HP, press your ult, get that instant 1/3 healing from just the ult, and then you have all of the time when they're cutting down your Kevlar shields to gain back all of the health that you were missing. So by the time they get through those dual 700 shields, you can be almost full HP again, and you're still in your ult, so as soon as they get past all those shields, they have to go through dual 60% resist in your ult. And since you have these other defensive items after your ult ends, you are still super tanky, and you're still hard to take off the map. Then we go back to Healbane, which I honestly believe is one of Yamato's best items ever. And then we go to Return Fire. Return Fire is going to make you super tanky because it gives conditional bullet resist. And it's also going to be an aggressive item where you're becoming more tanky, but you're also hitting them back and becoming more aggressive. This is basically just an improved version of bullet armor, but it's only sometimes, and we don't need it all the time because when you're in ult, you have 60% bullet resist, so that 26% bullet resist from bullet armor doesn't really do as much because they stack diminishingly. And then after Return Fire, we go to Torment Pulse. Torment Pulse is going to make you both tankier with bonus health, it's going to make you do more damage when you're near people, and it's going to be giving you more sustainability because of how much Spirit Lifesteal we're going to be stacking in this build. And then moving on to Metal Skin, it's once again another better bullet armor that just isn't active all the time, makes you completely immune to any gun damage, which is obviously very common, and it's just going to up your survivability a ton, and with how much cooldown reduction and duration extender we have, it's going to be active super often as well. After this, we're moving to improved spirit. You might be wondering why we're getting improved spirit instead of improved burst. And we're getting improved spirit because improved spirit is going to make you tankier with this 100 bonus health, and it's going to scale both your torment pulse and your cold front. So you're going to be doing more damage overall, even though the damage amped to your 1 is less than with improved burst. And then after all these spirit items, we're going to once again kind of pivot to a more hybrid leaning spirit build, and we're going to go to spiritual overflow. Spiritual overflow once again gives more cooldown reduction, more spirit lifesteal, and it gives a ton of fire rate and spirit power after you just hit people 3 times close range. Burst Fire is also going to contribute to this more hybrid leaning build where you can proc your Spiritual Overflow even better, and you can do a ton of damage with how much fire rate we're stacking with the ult upgrade, Spiritual Overflow, and Burst Fire. You shoot super fast, do a ton of damage, and you're scaling your spirit power as well. And once you become super strong in both Spirit and Gun, you might as well jump to Leech, because Leech is going to give us even more survivability. It's going to give us a ton of Spirit lifesteal, a ton of Bullet lifesteal, extra bonus health, and once again, more cooldown reduction. So we have a ton of cooldown reduction, so Return Fire is up all the time, Metal Skin's up all the time, Cold Front is up all the time, you're using your 1 way more often, and your Torment Pulse is ticking for so much damage. And then you get into your super luxury items where you're just upgrading things and capping out really. And we get superior duration here. And this is going to make your ult at max level last for 10.6 seconds. And this also ups the amount of time that you get replenished per each kill. So you have 10.6 seconds of duration. And your kill, each kill is going to add 2.6 seconds to the timer instead of just 2. And then I put Echo Shard in the build, and you might remember me saying many times that Echo Shard is just simply inferior to Refresher on Yamato, but with how long your ult is lasting now, and with how they changed the ult, I think that Echo Shard is a lot more valuable, because you're going to be online more often on Yamato, and instead of having just this burst of usefulness, you're going to be in the fight for longer, and you're going to be able to get more Echo Shards off, and get more from it, rather than just replenishing your ult and getting that quadruple slash off and doing a ton of burst damage. And then the build caps out at Boundless. This is just going to increase your damage a ton. This is going to make you more survivable and faster to rotate. It's really just the last piece that you will ever hit. Sometimes you might get more than this and you can buy a few more items, but this is really going to be the maximum you're going to hit in even a long game, really. So with a full build, your Return Fire has a 19.7 second cooldown with a 7.62 second duration. Your Metal Skin has a 18.4 second cooldown with a 4.4 second duration. Your Spiritual Overflow has a 23 second duration. Your Kevlar has a 19 second duration. Your ult has a 10.6 second duration with 2.6 seconds per each kill. And your Power Slash is getting up to 774 when you have both Diviner's Kevlar and Spiritual Overflow activated. I don't have the exact numbers on Cold Front or Torment Pulse because I don't know the exact scaling of the items, and you can't see the damage it'll do with Conditional Spirit. But from my testing, if you have both Diviner's Kevlar and Spiritual Overflow activated, Cold Front is doing about 400 and Torment Pulse is doing about 100. And without those conditionals activated, Cold Front is doing about 250, and Torment Pulse is doing about 75. And Torment Pulse is ticking super often, but I also can't see the cooldown on that. Other than just the Yamato changes, there weren't many changes to items or to the map that changed Yamato's playstyle too much. They did nerf a few things, like improved burst is a little bit weaker, and that might contribute a little bit to why we're using improved spirit over improved burst, but there's not too much change. One thing to note is that hero kill goal did get increased, so instead of getting 150 souls at the start of the game, you get 175, and instead of getting 1400 at the end of the game, you get 2000. And this is pretty significant for Yamato, especially because you're killing a lot of people early, so you can get a soul lead easier, but I'm not sure how big of a change it's going to be, so I can't really speak on it. As always, if you learned anything, if you enjoyed, I would really appreciate a sub or a like or both. I'll be making a lot more content on all of this, obviously focusing on Yamato and these changes and how they evolve. I would love to have a discussion about what you guys think is going to be strong, what you're looking at. So leave a comment, join my Discord, talk to me on Twitch. I'm happy to have a conversation anywhere, really. I am a giant nerd. I love talking about this stuff.